0, 1, 2, 3. Let's get started.
Oh, that's real good.
Why they stopping me?
Coach, he said you're jet ski wealthy.
I am. Jet ski. He's jet ski wealthy.
I don't even have a jet ski.
Doesn't mean you can't.
But you do live in Piedmont, so you're close. You can go. Welcome to the Westbrook Christian Football Show. Jeff Underwood, this is J-Dub White, and this guy right over here,
You mean the one with no introduction needed?
you know who that is.
This is Coach Steve Smith of the Coach Steve Smith Show. And, man, our pregame is so fun.
Oh yeah.
It really is. I mean, that's gold that can never be recorded or go live, but it's good stuff. Coach, welcome to the show.
Glad to be here, man.
I'm going to go on the limb. We're just going to get right into this. You got a tough stretch. Man, the schedule makers did you no favors. Locust Fort, past midnight, then the very next week. I mean, what an emotional, draining, physical game that was at Locust Fort. Then Piedmont.
Right.
Who don't like you, Coach?
We talk about it every week. Our region is no breaks in the region.
Brutal.
And just the non-region, we're stepping out this week, going to Mumford, a quality 4A program.
That's sad in itself when you're looking forward to going to Mumford.
Well, it's not necessarily looking forward to going to Mumford, to be honest with you. Just
Yeah.
The fact of the matter that each and every week you gotta bring your A game to have a chance to get a win. And we talk about it every week in here how hard it is to get a win. And
Jeez.
you better celebrate the wins and enjoy them because they're not easy on the schedule for sure.
Yeah.
Well, looking at 2-2 on the season, obviously you always have a plan, right? Besides winning the ball games, right? That's the plan. But what's it going to take to make the playoffs? What's the win total?
Well, there's not a definitive total
Yeah.
that you say you got a 9-team region, 4 teams are going to make it. So off the top of your head, you say, well, you have to win 5 region games.
Yeah.
5 and 3 would be if the number 1 team beat everybody and the number 2 team beat everybody, but the number 1, if it all fell like that, then you'd have somebody that would be 8-0 and 7-1, 6-2, 5 and 3 would be what would be necessary. But you can see from the region the way that it is, you may have 3 or 4 teams that are all 4 and 4.
That's true.
And then get into a tiebreaker situation because
crazy.
there's such parity in the region. I think Piedmont and Locust Fork have kind of separated themselves right now, but if you just look at it, Wellborn is still undefeated, I believe, in the region.
They are.
You still got J.B. Pennington that has played several people, down to the wire. I think they played Wellborn down to the wire and Locust Fork down to the wire. Ohatchee's got a great team. Sachs and Weaver. Sachs got a win over Weaver, I think, last week.
Mm-hmm.
Glencoe, I've maintained for the whole time that Glencoe will pop up and beat somebody this year that people didn't think they were supposed to. Literally, it's just one of those situations where when the scores roll in tomorrow night after this week's region games, don't be surprised who won those games because any one of those 4 games could go either way.
Parity.
I said that like we have region games tomorrow night. Next week when we get back into region play, all 4 of those region games, could go either way.
And Ohatchee ain't no joke. So.
No, they're explosive and they were right there on the verge of making the playoffs last year. They had a big injury there toward the end of the year to one of their key players, that kind of set them back. But that they're another one of those teams that they can beat anybody on a given night.
Good for that though is you have them at home. Going to the Creek Bank's tough, regardless what the record is.
Sure it is.
I think all the teams in this region, have a distinct home field advantage. There's a lot of tradition in a lot of these places, and it's tough to go on the road and get a win.
Whew.
We were at home last week. We didn't get a win last week at home, so the upper echelon teams do whatever it takes to be able to go on the road and get a win, and that's what makes them the upper echelon.
Yeah, what are some of the biggest challenges when you have 2 hard losses, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you don't lose. Your guys are not used to this.
Right.
I mean, they're adopted Steve Smith culture, and that's winning, right? So,
Dang right.
What are the biggest challenges during this type of stretch right here?
Well, two things. Number one, you got to keep the confidence level of the players up, because anytime you face adversity and anytime it doesn't go the way you want it to go, human nature is you start to question a little bit about what you're doing and are we doing it
We
the
do
right
that
way?
every day, don't we?
And and you're talking about dealing with 14 to 18-year-old young people. You don't want their confidence to get shot. I want our guys to know that I still believe in them. I believe in what we're doing. The outcome hasn't went our way the last 2 weeks, but that doesn't mean that the season's lost. You got to just pick up the pieces, flush those last two, and get ready for the next game. Or otherwise, if you dwell on it, then it'll beat you again the next week.
Sure.
Our focus this week has been on Mumford, and then the second, I said there was two things. Number one is confidence of the players in what they're doing is the right thing. The second thing, though, is you get to this stretch in the season, you also got to manage your roster as far as injuries and things like that, and how you go about practicing, because we all grew up in a time, you coming off back-to-back losses, you knew it was just going to be tough on Monday at practice. You're going to get out there and coach is going to kill you just because, we ain't supposed to lose. And when you grow up that way, and that's all you know in the beginning, you do what you learned. And I was that way in the beginning of my coaching career, and although the last couple of weeks have not went the way that we wanted them to go, our team didn't need a bloodbath type week this week.
Sure.
We needed to fix some things, and we needed to go over some things. A lot of it was in meeting time and film time and walkthrough time of trying to correct those things without just pushing the panic button and saying, all right, we lost 2 in a row, we're going to go out there and it's going to be Oklahoma drill all day on Monday. And then you just start compounding the situations.
Yeah.
With more, we've had a lot of guys that had a chance to get well this week from just nagging injuries, things that's week to week type stuff that they just didn't need to go out there and beat on each other this week. Our issue is not an issue of whether or not we can be physical. We've shown that we can be physical. Did we do it at all times this past Friday night? We didn't. We got to be better. We got to be better about being consistent with that. But it wasn't a week to go out there and just put them through torture because we lost a couple. It was trying to just keep the confidence level high in the kids that what we're doing is going to work, and in managing the roster and taking care of those injuries and getting treatment for the people that are not injured to the point where they can't play. Just we need to get them back to 100% instead of 80%.
Mm-hmm.
And then we did. I used the Coach Saban analogy also. Middle season, non-region week. We've had some guys battling for some playing time and shaking some things up a little bit, some combinations. Coach said, he said it's time to get the right players on the bus, the wrong players off the bus.
Amen.
And the ones that's on the bus, you got to get them in the right seat.
Right.
So that's kind of what we've been looking at this week, trying to get the right guys on there, the right combination of 11, and finding the right place for those people to be to give our team a chance to be most successful.
That's good.
And even for an experienced coach like yourself, it's not always easy to do.
Well, and at the same time, I've had several one-on-one meetings with kids this week. Kids that I have an expectation for, kids that I've seen something in them through their habits over the last 18 months that leads me to believe that maybe they're either, number one, they're confused about what they're supposed to be doing, or, is there something going on in the background that's keeping you from being able to play at the level I know you can play at, whether it's a nagging injury, whether it's a situation where you just don't understand the scheme. I spent more time probably this week as a head coach in one-on-one situations, either phone calls with players that trying to clarify exactly what you want me to do, Coach. That's the great part about it. I'm tickled that we have kids that want to know.
Heck yeah.
What can I do better? What can I do to it's not about playing time as much as it's, I know that I'm not producing the way I should be. Where do you see that I can get better, and what can I do better to help the team? And that's music to a coach's ears to be able to have players that are asking that. But again, I think most of us that are our age would probably think, I wouldn't want to be at practice this week. I bet Coach must know.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's been probably right the opposite. It's been a lot more laid back and informative instruction type stuff. Let's just be honest about it, guys.
Well, that's
if you don't play as physical as you would like to play, sometimes it's not about are you practicing physical enough. Sometimes it's, do they have it in them to be that way?
Hello.
And, you know, you look at it and all we ever knew was football, and it's a rough sport. And the more physical, the better.
Yeah.
You know, everybody, you can't just look at them and say, well, I bet he's a good football player. There's some big kids out there that's just really nice.
No, that's
Right. We've met those
And-
kids
and
for sure.
I love them being nice all the time, except from that 2-hour window when you're on the football field. It's okay to just be mean during that time, you know. And I don't know, different people look at it different ways, but if a kid's not real tough, this past Friday night on September the 20th, I'm not really sure that I can make them tough by September 27th.
Yeah.
That's fair. But let's look at this, though, because it goes to your relationship and your coach's relationships with these players that they feel they can call and talk to you.
Right.
I don't know, when I was playing for Coach Townsend or Coach Farmer, that I would have had it in me to pick up the phone and call one of those coaches. You know what I'm saying? So that culture and the way it is with you and your – man, that's pretty fantastic. They feel comfortable enough to do it.
We all played out of a fear.
Yeah, absolutely.
We were fearful of our coach, and a lot of times we were fearful of the people at home too.
No doubt.
If we wasn't producing and performing up to the level that was expected, somebody was going to be in your ear.
Yeah.
And it's, I say all that, and a lot of people will tell you, well, coach, they're scared of you, you know. And I've had players. I'm scared to ask Coach Smith something, you know. And I get that in a respect type way.
Yeah.
You don't want to let your coach down and all, but at the end of the day, the ones that have it in them to want to be good football players, me and we're talking the same language.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
To the ones that may want to be on the team, but they're not really committed to being great football players, then sometimes my words might be a bit abrasive to them, you know. But at the end of the day, everyone doesn't have the same mindset when it comes to the game. Some people can be laid back, chill type people during the week, during the day even, and they can turn it on when they go on the field.
Yeah.
Some people are just kind of wide open all the time. And, you know, part of the challenge on coaching is to try to get everybody to be wide open for the team during the game.
Yeah.
But understanding that different people have different personalities and there's different ways that you can reach different people. I've got some kids on the team that I can yell at them and it gets their attention. I've got some other kids on the team that if you yell at them, they just kind of go in a shell. You know, and you got to bring them over the side and put your arm around them and talk to them. You can still be talking to them sternly in their ear.
Sure.
But, you know, it's just, I've learned over the years, everybody's not motivated the same way. So that's another thing, you know, as you get to know your players, you try to find out which different buttons can push to get each individual player performing at their maximum ability. And that's something that I do think nowadays it's more important relationally with your players to get to know them, how they are. I was coached by 2 coaches in high school and college that they just coached everybody the same hard way.
Sure.
But both of those guys, both Coach Johnson and Coach Burgess, were very compassionate toward their players off the field. It was just a hard-nosed grind when you were on the field every day. And it didn't matter if he's a quarterback, an offensive lineman, a defensive end, they expected everybody to be rough.
Yeah.
And, you know, I have an expectation of how I want our team to play. And I want our team to play fast, and I want them to play physical, and I want to play hard-nosed football. It just is a little bit more valuable, I think, now to kind of know those kids away from the field than maybe it was when we were kids.
That's true. You talk about player motivation. I mean, I played for Coach Glover and then Charles Nails. I mean, he came right in. So Charles is tough, but Charles was relational. So he was a little different than Glover. Glover, kind of like Burgess, same way. Everybody gets the same thing off the field. I'm going to love you no matter who you are. Charles Nails would adapt during each practice, and he would say, okay, last week we screwed up. These are the mistakes we made. We got to rectify these mistakes. But this opponent coming up next week is totally different. Montford's totally different than Piedmont.
Right.
And Charles was really good about making those adjustments for us.
His wife taught him how to coach.
She did. Yeah, that's true. I mean, that's absolutely true. I think your wife probably knows his wife very well. But those are the types of coaches we've all played for. But player motivation is huge. I mean, you got to keep these guys' spirits up, right? You got to keep them level-headed. And I think that could get out of control sometimes in this day and age that we're playing or we're watching. kids get way up and then they get way down, and it doesn't matter who your opponent is. It's all about coaching and relationships.
That's exactly right. That's we try to talk to the players all the time about keeping that even keel.
Yeah.
Not getting too up in the first 2 games of the year. That didn't have anything to do with Game 3. We've lost the last 2 games. That don't have anything to do with this coming Friday night.
That's right.
You just got to play the next game. The next game is the biggest game because it's the next game. That's one of the things that we always talk about. And again, when you look at our schedule, I told someone, I said, I feel like we're good enough that we can finish the year 8-2 from right now. I also feel like that we're at a point where if we don't do what we're supposed to, we can finish 2-8, or we can finish anywhere in between. There's not a game on the schedule where you say, yeah, we're definitely supposed to win that one, and there's not a game on the schedule where you say, yeah, we're definitely not supposed to win that one. And that's where keeping everybody together. That's where finding that way to motivate everybody. That's where getting everybody to come to work each and every week and prepare and to do their job. That's going to be the biggest challenge that we got the rest of the way on the regular season schedule, is to see if we can get everybody each week to buy into what their job is for the team. When you have injuries, somebody step into that position and not miss a beat with the things that you got to do to be able to be successful each and every week. And from a coach's standpoint, it would be really cool if you looked at the schedule and said, well, we got 8 wins on the schedule. Well, we don't. We're going to be in a battle each and every week to win a game. And that's why I try to tell our guys, you need to celebrate those wins, and you need to enjoy the wins because they're hard to come by. And, again, I don't think there's a team on our schedule that we can't beat. I don't think there's a team on our schedule where you say that's a sure win. It's one of those things. It's going to be how we prepare each and every week and how we go out there and produce as a team.
Yep.
Well, Jeff and I were doing the preseason show when we got to Westbrook. We circled your last 3 games, Pennington, Weaver, and Welborn, because you are such a young team, and we thought, hey, by the time the 18th of October gets here, those freshmen, sophomore, juniors, or they're playing like juniors and seniors. They got a lot of ball in them.
Yeah, sure.
So talk about just the progress of the younger kids getting game action, big game action, and how that can be valuable the last 3 games of the season.
Well, I certainly don't look. I'm not looking to the last 3 games.
I understand.
I mean, we all we really are focused on.
Sure.
Trying to find a win tomorrow night at Mumford. That's it in a nutshell. Then you got another region game against Ohatchee coming in the next week. So those are all things. The week after that is our homecoming against the Innovation Academy, the team out of Tennessee that we really don't know a whole lot about.
Yeah.
So I really try to avoid looking too far down the road and thinking about those things, because if you do, then you're going to sit there and not take care of what's in front of you.
Sure. Let me rephrase the question, because we were talking more regardless of who's on the schedule the last 3 games. We were talking, faceless opponent. We were just talking about time it gets to that point of the season.
Yeah, as from an experience standpoint with the guys, it does make a difference when you got game experience under your belt. Not only in the varsity games with the guys that are playing, but also we've played 3 JV games up to this point. We usually have a full 8-game JV schedule. Now, I'll have some people that will drop the JV game, and that really frustrates me because I put a lot of stock in those games with those guys that may not be Friday night starters. They were playing in those games on Monday night, because every year for the last 15 or so, I've been able to find a couple of guys that through getting 8 games on Monday night, then by week 7, 8, 9 in the varsity season, they may not be starting on offense or defense, but they may be on all your special teams. They may be guys that are giving somebody a break on the kickoff team, the kickoff return, punt team, whatever it might be, because of the experience they pick up playing in those JV games. So not only when you get to the latter part of the schedule do you have sophomores and a few freshmen that are playing like a year older because they've got games under their belt on Friday, but they've got 6 or 7 games under their belt on Monday night as well. And even though you're only playing 8-minute quarters and 32 minutes instead of 48 and those types of things, if they're getting 20, 25 extra snaps against another team that's competing to win, it's different than getting them with scout team in practice. And, because the practice schedule is not what you and I remember it being. Every day is not a 3-hour practice where you're scrimmaging, ones against ones and things like that and trying to prove. A lot of times you're practicing, for a couple of hours and everything's scripted and you're trying to see certain things and certain combinations. And so getting to turn the lights on Monday night and for those young guys to get a lot of playing time there, also enhances their ability to be able to produce as the season goes on the varsity level. And you know, we're relatively young. We got, I think, 2 freshmen that can start on our defense and 5 or 6 sophomores. I mean, so you know, you just got to believe and have faith that as the year goes on, those guys are getting more and more plays, you know, behind them and more things experience-wise that can help them. But you know, you can't use that as an excuse either. Well, everybody that we play has some youth. Mumford this week, I think last week they started 5 sophomores and a freshman on defense themselves. So you know, everybody's in the same position. Everybody's still trying to incorporate some young with some old. Piedmont last week, I think, started a freshman quarterback, freshman right guard, and had a couple of freshmen that played significant minutes for them on the defensive side. So you know, everybody at this stage of the season is trying to have your older, experienced veteran leadership, but also trying to incorporate some of the new guys that can help the varsity team on Friday night.
Well, yeah, I mean, you've got a hungry Montford team that's coming in off of 3 straight big losses, right? I mean, I think the smallest one was the margin was 14-0 or something like that, but they got 63 hung on them this Friday night or this past week.
But that was by one of the top 2 or 3 teams in the
handily,
state.
right?
You know,
that's exactly
that
right.
region that they're in. You know, those losses when you talk about the Tallahassee,
That's right,
and Bullitt
Yeah.
County.
That's right.
Bullitt County might have been the game you're referring to that
That's
was
right.
the least, but I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think they got a linebacker committed to Alabama.
Yep.
We had that Bullitt County game on film, and that's just a bunch of animals out there all over the field. You know, I choose to put more of our preparation for Mumford into the Lincoln game.
Okay.
Lincoln, we know, is a 5A quality opponent. Mumford Lincoln's a big rivalry
30
game.
30
and Mumford won that game 30-3. So you know, regardless of anything else, it's hard for us to gauge somebody against people that we know nothing about.
Right,
So I know nothing about Tallahassee, Bullitt County. I know a little bit about Hanley just because of my relationship with Coach Strain. And I know they got a team every year that is going to be in contention for that 4A South representation. You know,
He's an okay coach.
He's a really good coach.
It's all right.
And of course, we had that game with a film swap with Mumford, and you could see it. And in that game, is even like I was telling our kids, you know, there's an interception return for a touchdown, there's a kick return for a touchdown, some big plays that happened, you know, where Mumford was in position, they just didn't get the guy on the ground.
Yeah.
Very similar to what you saw in our game this past Friday night. You know, just big plays that really were, you know, broke their back a little bit. But you know, when you look at Mumford versus Lincoln in that rivalry game, and Lincoln being another school in the close vicinity, that you know what type of athletes they have at Lincoln. You know, I told them we need to prepare for the Mumford versus Lincoln team.
Sure. Well, if you look at, I mean, that's one of the teams in Mumford that their talent is way better than their record indicates. If you just look at the records, like, I don't know, but knowing some players on that team, and it's man, they're a good football team. They really are.
They got an all-state running back from last year. They rushed for 2,000 yards roughly. And
when you say it like that,
he's really good. And they've got some good receivers. They got a number 4 that's as fast as anybody we've seen all year long. Quarterback's a dual threat guy. They got some nice-looking linemen that you know, some of them play offense, some of them play defense, but they're good-looking kids coming off the ball. Talented people in the secondary. They don't start a whole lot of people both ways, so they get a lot of guys on the field. You just see a team out there that's really, really good. That's just had a tough stretch right here at the very beginning of their season.
let's talk about the off weeks. Do you think it's benefits a team more having a bye week in the middle of the season? I mean, 'cause you're on a gauntlet. Let's face it, 10 in a row.
I personally don't like a bye week. Now, I'm probably in the minority on that. You know, in the standard 8.
I'm with you.
Well, the standard 8-team regions, when everybody in the region's off 1, 5, and 10.
Yeah.
And now they give you the option of playing a real game week 0.
Yeah.
I see a lot of people that like to play week 0, 1, and then be off 5, have that break in the middle, and then I see some others that like to play 10 straight games week 0 through week 9 and be off 10. You know, I guess that would have its advantages if you were a playoff team and you're trying to rest some guys and maybe scout your playoff opponents. So I can see that. But me personally, and plus any of those ways that involve you playing a real game week 0 typically means that you start a week earlier.
That's true.
Put you back your start of football up to that last week of July when, you know, I feel like a lot of things that happen on our calendar in the Alabama High School Athletic Association is not in the best interest of the kids. it's in the best interest for maybe what the AHSAA would like to see done,
Yeah.
or what the administrators would like to see done. But we can all go back to a time when we didn't play a football game until after Labor Day.
Yeah,
right.
that's-
A lot of times we didn't start school till after Labor Day, right?
yeah, absolutely.
And we graduated the first week of June or whatever.
Yeah.
So we did go 2 extra weeks, maybe from what the end is. But
Yep.
you know, the calendar is so warped right now, and we talk all the time about player safety and the medical advisory board and having to practice this many days this way and doing this if the heat index is this high. Sometimes I just want to pick those people up and say, look, if we really are concerned about that,
Yeah.
why are we continuing to provide options
Right.
that will back the season up?
Yeah.
If heat index is such a problem,
Push.
why are we backing it up? Well, I tell you, we're backing it up so we can have the Super 7 the first weekend in December.
Awesome. Yeah.
We're backing it up so that we can get basketball in, and we won't have a true March Madness. So baseball's backed up and started in the second week of January.
Yeah.
And I just want to say, do y'all take note that the major league teams go to Arizona and Florida for spring training and don't start
Ding,
baseball?
ding, 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 ding.
Yeah.
If we really care about what's right, quit telling the public that we're concerned about the student athlete,
Yeah.
and then setting a calendar that's not indicative of backing up what we're saying out of our
That's
mind.
exactly right.
Our calendar don't back up what
the actions are. Yeah.
we're saying that we're doing in the essence of player safety. And so I went all about that.
Yeah.
The question was about having a bye week.
I like where you went though.
I'm
too.
not for having bye weeks myself. I would rather play straight through, but having the bye weeks means you play week 0. Having week 0 games means you start the last week of July. And all you're doing in the state of Alabama is putting another week of practice on kids in the extreme heat.
Extreme heat.
And again, you got to be tough enough to get through it. We're already having
Sure.
summer workouts. I get all that stuff, but I'm too old to be a fool to keep being told the same message about what everything that we're doing is in the best interest of players.
Praise God.
It's not.
God, it's refreshing.
He says it out loud?
A real head coach to say it
Out loud.
Yeah.
Let me ask you, do you
Refreshing.
suspect anything is going to change with the new leadership that's down there now?
You know, I'm friends with Coach Harmon.
Yeah,
I like Coach
me
Harmon
too.
a lot. I think it's just like a lot of other areas of leadership. I think there's way too many voices and people out there that Coach Harmon will not be making unilateral decisions. He could have the best plan in the world,
Yeah.
but there's way too many people that's got to be pleased in order to be able to keep enough people happy.
Yeah.
Anybody that thinks that the decisions that are made in that office are not influenced by the threats of lawsuits, politicians, the good old boy network, whatever.
Yeah.
It's easy to sit here for all of us to say, well, if I was in Coach Harmon's seat, I'd do this, this, and this. I'm going to tell you something. Heath Harmon's a strong-willed man.
He is.
I'm a Heath Harmon fan. And if it was just Heath Harmon acting unilaterally and everything, I think he would do some things that could fix a lot of the issues.
Sure.
But, again, in the political realm that we live in, there's too many people that have to be pleased. There's too many people with the calendar the way that it is right now that are making money off of the high school athletics and when it's happening and when those venues can be gotten and when they can be used. There's too many people that's got too much to lose for decisions to be unilateral decisions.
What do you think happens now since now you got the team, the playoffs with the NCAA? How does that affect high school sports when it comes to the Super 7?
Well, it's already going to
It's already done.
It's already going to affect Alabama and Auburn have already
They're
pulled out.
So they're
because
done.
They're pulled out, and they're still.
What are you going, MetLife or something like that?
I haven't heard the
Right.
announcement yet of what the plan is going to be. Like
Going
for this
forward.
year, for this year, we know it's
Yeah.
going to be in Birmingham.
Correct.
But I haven't heard the plan on what it's going to be. If it's been announced in the last month, I just
I
missed
haven't heard it. No.
But it's a lot of things that are motivated by. Let's just cut to the chase. It's motivated by money.
Yeah.
And it's motivated by corporate sponsorships. And we're very lucky in the High School Athletic Association that we've got some great corporate sponsors.
Alpha Insurance.
I'm not going to start naming them because I miss
That's true.
somebody.
That's the biggest one out
Sure,
there. is
yeah.
Alpha.
But at the end of the day, as coaches, I'm liable for the health and safety of players.
Yes, you are.
I'm a football coach. I'm not a doctor.
Yeah.
I can have all the courses and I can have all the trainings and I can have all the certificates that make me check the boxes to be eligible to coach.
Come on.
But that does not make me a doctor.
Amen.
And I'm a big advocate for pushing. And Coach Rob at Hoax Bluff, he and we've had some meetings with some people that can help us. We're big on trying to get athletic trainers
Praise
in every
God.
school.
Absolutely.
You know,
Yes.
we finally got nurses in each school
Yep.
10 years ago.
I'm for
You know, and that was a need. And I think there's a need for athletic trainers in each and every school. The next person that dies on the field is going to be one too many.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it's not by just pure negligence. It's just by people that are not trained, not being out there making those decisions. I can tell you, my life is a lot more smooth every day that I have an athletic trainer on the field with me.
Yeah.
I feel a lot better every time I have an athletic trainer on the field with me than on the days where it's just up to me or the other coaches to make decisions on whether or not a kid is genuinely
Right.
struggling, or is it somebody you just need to push them a little bit more?
Yeah.
You know, because that's not my area of expertise. And again, we can have all the plans in the world. We can say it's about player safety. We can say it's about doing right by the players. We're making the coaches take courses. All that course is a piece of paper. That's
Yeah.
all it is, a certificate. Let's put some
It's
words
needed.
to. Let's put some action to the
Sure.
words.
Yeah, for sure.
But going back to when we played, we all played. I mean, we're all the same era.
Right.
We're very fortunate we didn't have those type of deaths. And the segue.
I think I died twice.
I did 3 times, and I know for a fact. But does this not have something to do with the times that, as far as the backing things up, baseball players, all these different injuries that you're seeing in baseball, they're legging things out that they should be doing in 85-degree weather versus 46-degree weather. We played a game this past year. We got kids out there, a couple of kids that could play JUCO ball that are throwing. They're trying to be at full speed out there pitching, and they're pitching in 47, 48-degree weather,
Right.
and wind making your nose freeze off, and then next thing you know, this kid's out for the year.
Okay.
Right? Football. Let's back it up a little bit. We all practiced, did spring training in the heat of the day, did 2-a-days and all that kind of jazz, and we hated it. But our coaches somehow made you drink enough water to keep you alive or whatever it was.
That's
But
exactly
now
right.
it's backed up even further. And you did it. I mean, just kind of a natural segue. It seems a natural progression that the things that we're seeing happens because of scheduling.
Scheduling, and I'll say this. Y'all have heard me, I'm a big advocate for 3-sport athletes.
Sure.
I think kids ought to play everything. I feel better about my own children and growing up if they were involved in something in the fall, the winter, and the spring. I didn't really care what it was, but being involved,
Sure.
being a part of the organizations at your school. With the calendar the way that it is right now, the winter sports are pretty much being kicked to the curb. And you say, well, how's that? It's hard to be a football, basketball, baseball player anymore like
That's
it
right.
was when we were kids.
Right.
Right? And then you got other sports in the spring, soccer, tennis, golf, track and field. They backed all their dates up to where they start earlier.
That's
You
right.
got those golfers
If you
out
play
there
baseball,
playing-
you can't play golf.
well, but the thing is if you look at the basketball season, with spring sports started now, as soon as you come back from Christmas break, there's not a chance. If I just use the football, basketball, baseball combo.
Mm-hmm.
When we were in school again, you play football, then you play basketball.
That's right.
Most of us did spring training football when basketball ended, and
right.
then you started baseball.
That's
And
right.
baseball
Exactly right.
season stretched on into June,
That's right.
and then when you finished it, you'd move into what we call senior Babe Ruth or whatever.
Right.
Nowadays, football season goes till end of November roughly, and then you come in, and the AHSA has set a calendar that we start baseball
That's
practice that second Monday in January with a quote throwing program that basically has turned into extra practice time because we can start playing on President's Day in February because we have to get the season over by the middle of April when the season really ought to just be starting.
That's right.
Yeah.
And then because we got 5 full weekends of playoffs now instead of first and second round being one game, which I'm an advocate for the playoff series. The best teams need to advance. I'm good with all that. But you know what it's done? It's discouraged a lot of kids from playing basketball
Yeah.
because if I'm right in the middle of basketball season at a small school, I'm not able to go to baseball practice at the first or second Monday in January. And so you're having a lot of kids that are becoming just football, baseball combo, and they just leave basketball out because baseball may be their first love. Heck, baseball was my first love. If the calendar would have been the way that it is right now when I was in school, I don't know that I would have played basketball. You know, I wasn't a very good basketball player anyway, but I don't know that I'd have played just because baseball was what I really, really loved. I'm a football guy. There's not a bigger football coach that loves baseball and softball than me.
Yeah, sure.
And that's what my kids were all involved in, in the spring and stuff. So, it's just a warped calendar right now, and it's not going to get fixed because for whatever reason, no administrator, principal-wise, is going to be in favor of playoffs stretching past graduation.
Sure. Yeah.
And I always tell people, I said, do you really think if you had the semifinals and finals of baseball and softball after graduation, do you think those kids that have played for all their lives and now are having a chance to play in the biggest moment on their high school career, do you really think it's going to affect their behavior or whether or not they show up, or they're not going to go on a senior trip and miss the semifinals?
Yeah.
I really don't understand why it's such a big deal that everything's got to be done before school gets out.
Yeah, I agree.
Because that back end is what messes you up on the front end. It
Yeah.
makes you have to start over.
Well,
Right.
I found, and I'm done with this. This is it for me. I found, I won't mention the name, but a very high-ranking political official in Alabama told me that the president of the Alabama High School Athletic Association is the third most powerful political person in the state. Governor, lieutenant governor, high school association president. And I thought about that for months, and I didn't comment on it. I just, if you sit back and think about that, I think he's pretty spot on.
I'm going to beg to differ. and I'm going to say that I do think that is a very important position, but it's like I stated earlier, those people's hands are tied. And I know when we had a change in leadership this time, everybody said, well, I still don't understand what's so hard. Just go down and do the right thing. There's so many things that go into that job that you got people in your ear. And the fact that the home office is in Montgomery, and a lot of the issues with doing a lot of the issues that executive director faces is because of people that might also be in Montgomery.
That's correct.
And a lot of people have lost sight on what's doing right for the entire program, because how do we view things politically a lot of times? We want what's right for us.
That's right.
And what's right for us may not always be necessarily what's right for the athletic program or athletic association as a whole. So, although as a high school coach, I'd love to think that the executive director of the AHSA was that powerful as far as making, again, unilateral decisions. I don't think it happens that way, because I think there's a lot of people that stick their nose in his business and keep him from doing his job. Because
I think it's the most powerful. I think you're right, and I think you're right, but what you're both saying, I think you're saying something different. I think that is correct when it comes to lobbyists and money that's generated, and the importance, the outlook that's looked on these positions, because they're in Montgomery by design. Let's just face it. I can say it. You guys, you can't either. But I can say it, and they don't do anything to me. It's literally lobbyist money that is generated. There's a whole lot more to this than just, hey, let's get done before school's out. There's a whole lot more.
Oh yeah.
People pulling at purse strings. But anyway, we're gonna release this as the Westbrook Christian Steve Smith Coaches Show, but we're gonna re-release it again as just a conversation about high school athletics.
Well,
I think we'll do that as well.
I'm gonna close it
as long
with
as you're
this,
cool
right?
with
For
that.
me, is when it came up, I wrote Steve Smith's name in for the association director, just so you know. You have my vote, Coach.
That's right.
We talked about it off
Yes,
air.
yeah, that's true.
When we had
We did.
a conversation off
Yeah.
air that we should have, and we talked about, hey, would we love to see in that position? I wanted you.
He did.
Well, I'll be honest with you. When it came open, I was intrigued by it, and the more I got to digging around, talking to some people that I have a lot of confidence in and a lot of trust in, and asking their opinion on it, it became more and more apparent to me that position will require an individual who can play the keeping. I hate to say that way because Coach Harmon, I don't want him to feel like he's a puppet. That's not.
Well, you've
it's
established that
it's going to take
yeah.
somebody that's a lot more apt and willing to listen to people from a lot of different areas, and I'm not really good at that. I'm kind of bossy, and I'm not sure that necessarily my instinctive nature of doing things, because my wife will tell you I think I'm always right. I'm not very good at negotiating. And it's like I tell her I wouldn't argue if I didn't think I was right.
Right.
But I'm not very good. I don't think at necessarily seeking and then implementing other people's advice.
Sure.
And that's going to take a team effort, probably more so than I would be willing to do. I don't think if I ever was in that position and I acted impulsively or on instinct, I probably wouldn't last very long. Just because I'm pretty opinionated about things and it's a.
Well, I'm gonna throw a fact out there. If you did get opinionated and you did act instinctively, I promise you, without a shadow of a doubt, it'd be in the best interest of the kids.
Yeah, I agree.
That part of it, I could 100% ensure that it would be in the best interest of the kids, and not necessarily the best interest of the ones that fit my criteria of the situations I worked in.
I agree.
But it would be in the best interest of the kids as a whole. And unfortunately, all of us at times view things only through our lenses of what looks right to us.
That's fair.
So therefore,
that's fair.
You're going to make somebody upset all the time.
Yep, I agree. Well, Mumford, Westbrook is traveling to Mumford, and tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Just stay safe, hunker down tonight, get through the power outages and the wind and the rain, the things that are going to be happening this evening. Get everything prepared to make your travel plans to get over to Mumford tomorrow night. Get there early, get you a good spot. Bring you some towels, wipe the bleachers off. Bring you some stadium seats, and I guarantee you it's going to be a fantastic night. We're praying for all of you guys, high schools that are down south. A lot of games are getting canceled right now. Just got word that Moody and Auburn has canceled their game. And several other ones, I'm sure, that are on the board that are big games will be canceled or rescheduled.
Well, IMG's coming to town too, right?
They were. Are they still? Are they still coming?
Who are they playing?
Central Phoenix.
I don't even get out of my little bubble. That's a big deal because that's one of the top teams in our state, obviously, versus IMG. I want to thank all the Westbrook people. I know the product we put on the field last Friday night, we were all disappointed in the outcome of that game. But our fans and our school, the kids at our school, everybody that had a part, the support that you guys are showing us is greatly appreciated. It has not gone unnoticed. We understand football-wise, in order to be able to keep that interest up, that we got to put a better product on the field, and the product on the field is a reflection of leadership. That's me. I need to do a better job of having our kids ready to play, and hopefully we'll put a product on the field starting tomorrow night that'll make you guys proud. But thank you all for your support. It's been tremendous this year, and a packed house last Friday night. It was a great atmosphere for a high school football game. Yeah. We got to do a little bit better on our end of going out there and producing.
Well, it's going to happen this week. You're going to see the same thing: packed house, visitors. Westbrook. I don't know if there's anybody. We got a lot of people in this area that travel really well. Westbrook does that very thing. They travel very, very
and they're loud.
They're very loud. That could be a lot of the Baptists that are in there.
Well, we're getting louder because I've got some dependents that are coming to the games, and people share the same last name. So one thing about the Smith crew, we're going to be passionate about whatever we support.
Heck yeah,
that's great.
Thank you again to our sponsors.
Yes, thank you guys. Thank you so much to Choice Fabricators. You guys rock it out all the time. We love you. You're sponsored. You sponsored us for a long time, my man, and we thank you. Jerry loves you. I love you. Anyway, we appreciate you guys. Absolute Respiratory Care. Thank you guys. Wait, man, we're seeing the progress over there off of
they're building that thing, man.
It is going up really, really quite quick. And thank you to our Sheriff Jonathan Horton for always sponsoring everything. Every single.
Don't forget our great mayor.
Thank you, Mayor Joe Taylor. I had to throw Jonathan in there today. I had to.
We love Jonathan
today. And Mayor Taylor, we're praying for you, buddy. We love you.
Yep.
You are the real deal. All right. So as for Steve Smith, Jerry White,